Hi everyone, how are you? This is Miriam Mumo Munguti, a Kenyan, an environmental scientist, and today I want us to have a brief discussion on matters sustainable development. Most of us just hear about sustainable development, the 17 goals, but most of them don't understand what it is. When you talk about sustainable development, we say it's development that helps the current or the present generation to meet their own needs without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. That's what we call sustainable development. And to bring to your attention, the sustainable development is not only a Kenyan thing or an African thing, it's a world thing. Because many years back, people just thought about development, and especially developed countries, they were just focused on industrialization, good infrastructure, food production, and environmental protection and sustainability and conservation was not in the picture. So sustainable development did not just come in as it's just something that just happened. It was a 30-year journey where it started in 1972, where we had the United Conference that were happening. It started in Stockholm, came back to Nairobi, went to Rio, then we had the last one in Johannesburg. But not really the last, but at least that was the process. 1972, it came to 1982, came to the process up to 2012, and we're still doing this. So it's a journey. So I want us to know that sustainable development, it's not something that people woke up and decided we're going to do sustainable development. Because when you talk about sustainable development, we have to know that we're talking about three good pillars. Economic growth, this is where we talk about industrialization, food production, people having a good life, right? And then we talk about environmental protection, maintenance, and all that. Then the last pillar, we talk about social equity or social inclusion, where we talk about bringing in together everybody in the picture. So sustainable development is not something that just people walk up. But sustainable development is a good thing, and especially when you talk about the 17 goals. But there are some contradictions. Two of them that we have. Let me read them for you. There are some sustainable development goals that calls for humanity to achieve harmony with nature, that is to protect the planet from degradation and to take urgent action on climate change with specific targets laid out. And basically, in goal number 6, goal number 12, goal number 13, goal number 14, and 15. But we have another one where we now have to focus on the global economic growth at existing levels or higher through 2030. This is where we talk about. So with this contradiction, we say there is a tension between sustainability and growth objectives of the Sustainable Development Goals. And just for to trigger your mind a little bit, I wanted to tell you that we had the Earth Summit, which now led to the adoption of the Agenda 21. You can go and read about the Agenda 21 later. But in Agenda 21, this is where we came up with several principles and targets. And with the principles, one of them is where you hear about something we call the polluter pays principle. If you find you disposing waste on the environment, then you have to bear that price. You have to pay. The polluter pays principle. Then the second one, we can talk about the precautionary principle. Precaution, you have to be conscious, especially when handling anything, and when you're doing everything for you to ensure that you're environmentally conscious. There are very many principles, many of them, and these are majorly for protection and conservation of nature. But I don't want to talk about that. I want us to talk about only 3 or 4 sustainable development goals. And the first sustainable development goal is to end poverty in all forms and everywhere. This is why we say at least everybody's per capita income has to increase. Like, we don't have to have many people who are poor in a country. But I want you to relate that when you're talking about poverty, that means we need to increase. That means everybody has to have an income, right? That means we need to work on job. People have to get jobs to get money. They must have. Everybody is able to access medication. Everybody has to have access to good infrastructure. That's what we call about poverty. People can go to school. Yeah. Then the second goal, we say we end hunger. This is, people have to achieve what we call food security. And not only food security, not just to eat, but it has to be nutritious. So we think about that. And not just food production, but it has to be sustainable food production. This is where we can think about conservation agriculture, good agricultural farming methods, and maybe anything that is related to food production has to be sustainable. The third goal, we said we have 17. So the third goal, we talk about ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. A good health. Not that, a good health. Then we have the fourth one. We say ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote a long life learning opportunities for all. Not a few, for all. I want us to talk about only the 4. I will keep on telling you the 17, but for now, the 4. Poverty and hunger, good health, inclusivity and education for everyone. Don't forget, these sustainable development goals are 17. And with the 17 goals, they have 169 specific targets with them. Go and do some reading. But these goals were adopted by the United Nations back in 2015. And this is a target that we think of by 2030, we should have achieved them. According to you as a Kenyan or an African, do you think we'll achieve this by 2030? Will we end poverty? What are the things that we need to do as a country, as a nation, as a continent, We will be able to end hunger. How many people are feeding 3 times in a day, and how many are not even feeding? Are feeding maybe say once in a day, and not alone feeding, but they are not feeding a nutritious meal in a day. And then you talk about equitable education, access to education. And as a Kenyan, now that comes to the point where now we're here struggling to see if the higher education board that is called HELB is able to give money for the poor students to be able to access education. Very many things that are happening. Life is getting more tougher. People don't have jobs, they don't have money. But we are here talking about the goals that we need to achieve them by 2030. 2030 is in 5 years to come. Do you think we're going to achieve that? Anyway, sustainable development goals, I've told you, have 3 pillars: economic growth, environmental protection, and social equity. See you in the next class. Let's talk about the other. Cheers.